set?
I think so.
I'm gonna start.
Yep, I'm going to start. I would like to call the joint meeting of the Recreation and Education and Ways and Means Committee to order. The purpose of our joint meeting is to hold a public hearing on the 2022-2023 operating budget for Monroe Community College. We will then proceed with the agenda items that have been assigned to both Recreation and Education Committee and the Ways and Means Committee. When the Recreation and Education Committee items are finished, that committee will adjourn and we will complete the remainder of the Ways and Means Committee agenda.
Will the clerk please call the roll for the Recreation Education Committee?
Chairman Alcoffer.
Here.
Chairman Alcoffer is present. Mr. Baines? Here. Mr. Baines is present. Mr. McCabe is excused. Ms. Vasquez Simmons? Here. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Mr. Hebert? Here. Mr. Hebert is present.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll for the Ways and Means Committee?
Ms. Barnhart? Here. Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Brew? Here. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Colby is excused. Chairman Delahaney?
Here.
Chairman Delahaney is present. Mr. Dondorfer? Here. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Mafucci? Here. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marinetti? Here. Mr. Marinetti is present. Ms. Roman? Here. Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith? Here. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons? Here. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. And Mr. Udelson? Here. Mr. Udelson is present.
Will Legislator Dondorfer please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll have a presentation by Dr. Deanna Bernano, President of Monroe Community College. Dr. Bernano. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Monroe County Legislator President and Monroe Community College Trustee Sabrina Lamar, Chairperson Sean Delahanty, and Chairperson Frank Alcoffer, members of the Ways and Means and Recreation Education Committees. We are grateful to all of you and Monroe County Executive Adam Bello for the opportunity to present MCC's fiscal year 2023 budget. My name is Dr. Deanna Bernano. I'm the president of Monroe Community College, and I'm joined today by MCC Board of Trustees Chair Alan Williams, MCC Chief Financial Officer and Vice President of Administrative Services, Greg Hinton, and Associate Vice President of Administrative Services, Mr. Dale Jacob Moore, who's also in the audience. Monroe County's investment in access to higher quality education is part of a much bigger picture, one shaped by an abiding commitment to the quality of life and economic prosperity of residents across all zip codes of our community. As Monroe Community College moves forward with a new strategic plan that will guide us through the next 5 years, we are committed to working with you to strengthen the college's impact on student success, economic and workforce development, promoting racial equity, and advancing other key county priorities. Since opening our doors 60 years ago on September 19th, 1962, MCC has provided accessible, affordable, high-quality education to thousands of Monroe County residents every year. We are especially grateful for your consistent partnership and investment in MCC. Your investment is visible and measurable across every level of our institution and across the region. MCC is among the top 4 certificate and associate degree producers in Monroe County and New York State. In June, more than 1,600 MCC graduates earned their degrees and certificates of completion. The return on Monroe County's investment in MCC is reflected in the fact that 93% of the graduates from our career programs find meaningful employment and stay within the region. An increasing number take the skills they learned at MCC and launch or expand their business within Monroe County. Of those who choose to continue their studies, about 75% transfer to a Rochester area college or university, or to a State University of New York, SUNY, or City University of New York, CUNY institution. In all, the economic impact of the MCC educated workforce correlates into an additional $737 million in annual income for Monroe County. Equally as significant, our continued focus on affordability is why approximately 55% of our students leave MCC with no debt. During the upcoming academic year, we plan to serve nearly 22,000 credit and non-credit learners. We feel fortunate to serve an increasingly diverse student population. Last year, we served more than 300 military veterans and active duty members, as well as international students representing 28 countries. 1 in 5 MCC students is a student parent. Of our student parents, 2/3 are single mothers. Behind every student are our faculty and staff who contribute tremendously to the economic and social vibrancy of Monroe County through their excellence of their work. As the community's college, MCC offers flexible learning opportunities to help learners at all stages of their academic and professional careers meet their educational goals. We offer more than 100 degree and certificate programs, as well as micro-credentials, including over 75 programs that can be completed fully or partially online. Our offerings also include fast-track programs ranging from 4 days to 22 weeks in length. Liberal arts and sciences, health studies, business administration, psychology, and education top the list of chosen fields of study. The college's impact on student success, workforce development, and racial equity is based on real-time labor market data and actualized through partnerships with business, nonprofit, government, and other educational institutions. Thanks to collaborations with over 160 local employers and workforce organizations, MCC students benefit from industry-driven education and training combined with employment services and job placement and work-based learning opportunities. For example, MCC partners with employers, government, and other peer colleges to run the Finger Lakes Workforce Development Center, also known as the Forward Center, which opened this spring on our downtown campus. This state-of-the-art facility offers short-term accelerated training ranging from 4 days to 15 weeks in length that equips students with skills in information technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, and automation, skilled trades, and more to become the technicians of tomorrow. The Empower Initiative, a collaboration with Monroe County since 2020, supports workforce training in information technology, advanced manufacturing, skilled trades, healthcare, and to address the shortage of skilled workers. MCC prepares students for these high-demand careers and strengthening the workforce pipeline. Since its inception, Empower has supported a total of 835 certified nurse assistants, home healthcare aides, and aspiring licensed practical nurses in starting or advancing careers that pay family-sustaining wages. Students like Christina from Rochester have found fulfillment in healthcare professionals and are role models for their children and their families. Not only are we helping to bridge employment gaps in local healthcare, we are graduating exceptionally prepared registered nurses. This spring, more than 90% of MCC's nursing program graduates passed their national licensure exams and are now registered nurses, outperforming their peers across the state and the nation when it comes to licensure exam pass rates. As the only college representing New York State to serve on the prestigious 19-member League for Innovation in the Community College Board, MCC is a role model of excellence to the more than 1,000 community colleges across the United States and Canada. While substantial county and state support have had a positive effect, MCC and community colleges in general are facing an array of long-term challenges such as inflation, increasing operational costs, and needed capital improvements. Similarly, our students have a myriad of challenges such as food and other basic needs and securities that MCC often subsidizes to keep our students on track to graduate. The budget I present for your consideration seeks an increase of $750,000, moving the county's sponsor contributions up 3.8% to $20.4 million for fiscal year 2022-23. Your increased financial support would positively impact MCC's financial position and students' educational opportunities. With increased support, MCC would be in a firm position to strengthen student recruitment, enrollment, and retention efforts, which are our top priorities. We are further reducing spending, aligning staffing to enrollment, and realizing savings in related employee benefits. Plans are underway to update lab equipment, enhance tutoring programs, and continue to grow scholarship programs and increase student success. MCC has a strong tradition of meeting the needs of our community, especially our most economically disadvantaged students. These students rely on institutions like ours as a critical path to bright futures. While our in-state tuition is the third lowest among the 30 SUNY community colleges, students have high financial need and may still feel that a college education is out of reach. Our Dream Keepers Emergency Student Aid Program made available thanks to the Monroe Community College Foundation, assists students with unanticipated expenses related to housing and food and utilities and childcare. More than 76% of Dream Keepers grant recipients persist to the following semester or graduate. I'm excited to share that soon MCC and more than 30 local educational partners representing K-12 and 2- and 4-year public and private institutions will announce an agreement to work together in eliminating barriers to educational progress. The agreement is a result of an inaugural Educational Partners Summit that was convened in April by leaders of MCC, SUNY Brockport, and Rochester City School District to identify barriers that hinder student access and success at secondary and post-secondary educational levels. The summit complements MCC's goal to strengthen collaborations to support our mission and reflects my commitment to help create a college-going culture in Monroe County and the region. Last but not least, to ensure sustained educational equity and excellence while serving as a low-cost provider of training and education, we nominally increased our full-time in-state tuition rate by $50 for 2022-23. The tuition increase is supported by student leaders who understand the array of financial challenges facing MCC and other colleges. Tuition cost is just one part of the story in higher education. Financial assistance from our partners in government has made it possible for us to weather the challenges of the pandemic. Through the Federal Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, also called HERF, MCC was awarded $18.5 million for fiscal year 2022. This federal fund has helped us to respond to students' health and safety needs, including mental health needs, and perform student outreach retention initiatives. HERF helped colleges like MCC recoup lost revenue during the pandemic. But it is not recurring a source of funding. Funds are restricted and must be used by June 2023, as prescribed by federal legislation. The 2022-23 New York enacted budget established a funding floor of 100%, hinging on previous fiscal years, that's 2021-22, approved based aid and pandemic level enrollment. As such, MCC and our peer SUNY colleges expect to see no additional operating support from the state. A more suitable funding model that would align with current realities facing community colleges is the funding floor set at 100% based on pre-pandemic levels. In closing, it is my honor to lead MCC, one of our nation's most respected and innovative community colleges. With all the successes that the MCC community achieves every year, we are proud to be a jewel and positive force in our community. As we inspire the way forward, MCC is leading from the inside out, positioning itself for a future full of excellence and service to Monroe County. Your increased support renews hope for the future, a future we are creating now together. MCC trustees, faculty, staff, and I deeply appreciate your consideration of our proposed fiscal year 2023 budget and your sponsorship. I thank you and I welcome opportunity to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, actually, we're going to, first we got to go through our public hearing. And once we go through the public hearing, then legislators will have an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bernano. We will now hold a public hearing on the approval of the Monroe Community College's 2022-2023 operating budget.
Affidavits of publication and posting of the notice of the hearing in the Daily Record and Rochester Business Journal have been received and are on file in the clerk's office.
Is there anyone signed up to speak in regards to the public hearing on MCC's budget?
No one registered to speak at the public hearing.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in regards to the public hearing on the MCC budget? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
Are there any speakers signed up to address either committee this evening?
There are no registered speakers for this evening.
Is there anyone here who would like to address either committee at this time? Okay. There being none, I declare the public forum closed.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Members of the Recreation Education Committee, you have the minutes from the May 23rd, 2022 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day.
Members of the Ways and Means Committee, you have the minutes from the June 29th, 2022 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day.
The next item on the agenda is new business. Legislators, please note the asterisks and the italicized print on your agenda for items requiring action by both committees. Mr. Clerk, please read the item to be considered by both committees.
Referral 22-0246, approval of Monroe Community College's 2022-2023 operating budget.
Can I have a motion, please?
And
What? Okay. Did you get that, Dave?
This is for
The recreation education.
Rec and Ed only. Yep.
so it's moved by legislator Hebert, seconded by legislator Baines
Yep.
for the Recreation and Education Committee.
At this time, are there any questions for members of the Recreation Education Committee only? Legislator?
To you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. Support from the county is increasing by slightly less than 1.3 million. 750,000 is in the sponsor contribution. There's a $547,918 increase in county debt service related to MCC. Could you please explain the increase and then help ignorant people like myself understand what the debt service is all about? Please.
Mr. Chairman, MCC debt service paid for by Monroe County roughly equates to 50% of the cost of capital projects. As MCC works through their master plan for building improvements and facilities improvements, they file an application with the State University of New York regarding that project. The State University of New York will, after their questions are satisfied, approve or deny their application. Just for example, Mr. Chairman, for a $1 million project approved by SUNY, that project would come 50% reimbursed by SUNY, and Monroe County would satisfy the other 50% of that project's capital cost. Monroe County secures the funding for that capital cost by the issuance of notes and bonds.
$547,000. What are some of the projects we would be excited to applaud that we are putting?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have the list in front of me, but I know the Finance Department filed on March 31st of this year a 2021 capital budget status report. That capital budget showing the activity occurring in the calendar year 21 likely reflects the increase of debt service that would begin in 2022. We can review that list of capital projects at this committee's convenience. I just don't have the document with me tonight, Mr. Chairman.
To our guests from MCC. Are you able to speak to the capital improvements that are driving the increase?
Just want to make sure that I'm inviting to assist me in responding to your question, Mr. Daryl Jacob Moore, who is our Associate Vice President in the finance area.
Through the chair, I also don't have the detail in front of me, but we can provide that to you.
Thank you. I'd just like to, before I yield, comment that from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, this honorable body did not increase its contribution whatsoever to MCC. And in 2022, we increased it by 500,000, and this year, this is the sponsorship, not the debt, we increased it by 750,000. 46-year educator who has had hundreds of my students attend MCC and thousands of students from the schools I taught attend MCC. I'm thrilled to see that we're investing in education and in the single most important engine of upward mobility and economic mobility in our community, which is MCC. Thrilled to see that, and I'm looking forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator. Does anyone else have any further questions regarding Legislator Heber?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To our guests from MCC, first of all, Dr. Bernano, lovely and wonderful to see your passion for the school. It's even more impressive to me, your care for the constituents, if you will. And I'm not sure we can call 19-year-olds constituents yet. I don't think I've been contacted one in 7 years, but thank you for supporting them and doing all the things that you guys do through both your organization and the foundation. During your presentation, you mentioned that there was a new strategic plan. Is a copy of that available?
We do not have a copy available this evening, but we would be happy to share that copy. It goes before our Board of Trustees on Monday, August 1st, for approval. And upon that time, we'd be happy to forward a copy of that, which will also become a public document.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That would be very helpful. You also mentioned that, and I don't remember the exact words, but you wanted to have the community become a college training.
College-going culture.
Yes, college-going culture. Do you include vocational? I mean, a lot of your programs are vocational in nature. When you say college-going culture, do you intend to highlight those vocational programs, which I think are highly contributing to the success of the college and the community?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question pertaining to, what strategies we might use to continue to create a legacy of a college-going culture in our community. It certainly reflects all the diversity of the needs throughout our community, which includes vocational education, as well as for transfer and other career-type programs. As you can see from the testimony, we serve a very broad audience of constituents that you so proudly support with dignity. And we make sure that that includes the vocational education as well as those that are transferring on to one of our stellar four-year partners as well. But it also goes deeper in that we want to make sure that programs like what we offer even this summer, the Healthy Heroes Summer Camp, where we bring our CSD children onto our campus and provide both recreational opportunities as well as educational opportunities to bridge their learning over the summer so there's not a learning loss. We make sure that that's part of developing a college-going culture. We work with our outstanding foundation of philanthropists all throughout our community to make sure that we're also engaging those individuals that may not otherwise have those resources through private funding that supplements the generosity of the county as well.
Thank you. And I would just like to echo Legislator Bain's comments that I'm thrilled to see that you guys are receiving additional funding from the county. You also listed the programs and the majors that were the majority of the students. And I'm hoping in the not too distant future, we can hear STEM mentioned as one of those areas of expertise, because certainly those are jobs that are not only family supporting, but they're critical to the future of Monroe County to be able to fulfill jobs in the science, technology, engineering, and math areas. And with that, I will yield the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Heber. At this time, are there any further questions from members of the Recreation Education Committee?
Oh, from the committee.
Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll move to a vote. Members of the Recreation Education Committee, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries.
And now from the Ways and Means Committee. Next item.
Referral 22-0246, approval of Monroe Community College's 2022-2023 operating budget.
Moved by Legislator Marionetti, seconded by Legislator Bondorf. And Legislator Mafucci as well.
Noted.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Legislator Brew.
Yes, this is my committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To the chair, I have a question for Dr. Bernano. Doctor, you mentioned in your statements as one of the goals was to promote, racial equity within the college. I just like you to know that I'm fully supportive of that. I see, I see a need for that in the community. I see the purpose that it serves in ensuring that some of the challenged youth out in our community have an opportunity to pursue a career, pursue an education. I also see the benefit of having leadership roles in that regard as well for young people to look up to. So, and I know the county is fully vested in that as well. So my question to you is specifically what does the college have in mind in terms of promoting those goals?
Thank you so much for that question. I will try to contain my excitement in responding to it because there are a diversity of ways that we can describe that. So one of the priorities through our strategic plan is to address diversity broadly, not just from a racial standpoint, but as you hear, we talked about supporting our veterans. We talked about supporting the student parents. We talked about how we support those of diverse genders as well as many others. And so our priorities respond around making sure that we include not only all of our students as one, but also our employees as well. So we invest, for example, through the strategies that we use for hiring. We make sure that there is a process in place that allows for us to recruit talent. Most recently, we were able to add to the diversity of our senior leadership team. You've now met my colleague, Vice President Greg Hinton, as our new CFO, who replaced our beloved Hezzy Simmons, who retired. And we also have a new vice president at our downtown campus that oversees our Edowitz division upon the departure of Todd Oldham. That's Dr. Robin Cole Jr. So we continue to invest through those recruitment strategies that we use that make sure that we have diverse candidates that come before us that we can take into consideration. But we're also investing in the fact that our students, through the recruitment process of our leadership team, that we are making sure that we're not leaving any zip codes behind. We've done some data analysis, and there were some opportunities for us to strengthen our recruitment cycle in some communities that were not fully represented. And we identified that through the data, made it a priority in examining that, and our strategies are addressing that. We're writing a strategic enrollment management plan right now that will become a subset of our strategic plan, one of the integrated plans, as will a diversity, equity, inclusion plan also be part of an integrated strategic plan. So all of those strategies are ways that we make sure that we're being intentional about it, that we're being inclusive. We're examining our purchasing and all types of procurement policies where systemic racism and other different ways that we did not intentionally intend over the years to disadvantage any population. And we have no evidence that we did at this point, but we want to make sure that we take it before ourselves and look at all those different ways that we can commit publicly to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging throughout our community.
Thank you for your response. I like to echo Legislator Baines and Fucci's and Hebert's compliments that, I think you're doing a marvelous job over there, you and your team. And I know your leadership skills, as they appear to be excellent. If they're half as good as your excitement up in front of the legislative body, you're doing a great job. So thank you again, Dr. Bernano.
Well, thank you. My boss is in the room, and I'll appreciate him having heard that.
Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really enjoying these trainings. I again want to echo comments made by my colleagues, James and Hebert, and just want to say this, that I'm very, very excited about watching MCC march toward creating this region as STEM Valley East.
Thank you. Thank you for your commitment.
Any other legislators? Legislator Vasquez Simmons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Monroe County is the second largest, has the second largest Latino population in the state of New York. Could you tell us a little bit about the strategy that you're trying to implement so that we can?
I'll repeat what I think I heard was you wanted us to speak specifically to the Latin population. Okay. And I'll share a statistic that some may be familiar, but others might be hearing for the first time. As you know, we drive our business based on making sure that we understand what the data leads us to doing, and that includes everything from how we offer program choices and different delivery styles, but we also use that to help us to understand what trends are occurring, not only throughout higher education, but what's happening at our own college. Over the next maybe now 4 to 5 years at most, MCC will become a majority minority serving institution. About 1 to 2 years after that, we will proudly have the distinction of being a Hispanic serving institution. So in so doing, we understand that populations experience education and life in different ways. And so those wraparound services that you heard me talking about, responding to life matters that the data lets us know that certain populations, including those of my own ethnic descent, have greater hurdles to get up that rung on the ladder. And so we are making sure that we scaffold those supports and that through our recruitment efforts, we're also not only targeting those populations, those zip codes where our colleagues are, that we can become that distinctive institution that we're on track in becoming. So it's a totality of the supports that we use, and our approach does not preclude any population or ethnicity of individuals. We are the communities college, so we're all of that and more. And so I hope that addressed your question. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Okay, at this time, I'm going to let Chairman Alcoffer say a few words.
Doctor, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for what you do for veterans in our community, the programs that you have over there. I've heard from a lot of veterans that have gone through, when the veterans come home, they have no substance in their lives. They're looking for directions. And that department head is just wonderful over there, and what you do for the veterans and steer them into the proper curriculum and get them going in our community. So again, thank you so much for what you do for the veterans and everybody else in our community.
Thank you. We're honored to serve, and I will make sure I pass that along to Eric Wheeler.
All right. At this time, there being no further questions from members of the Ways and Means Committee, we're going to ask for all members of the Ways and Means Committee to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Are there any other matters to come before the Recreation Education Committee? Hearing none, there be no other matters. The July 26, 2022 meeting of the Recreation Education Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Recreation Education Committee will be held on Monday, August 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. And we're just going to take a moment here. We're going to let Rec and Ed pack up, and then we're going to be moving into Ways and Means Committee next. Thank you.
Oh, here, give that to Frank.
Thank you.
Give that to Frank.
Yeah, sure. Good job. Yep. We'll let everyone get situated. Hey, Pat. How are you? Oh.
I don't think it mattered.
No, you're just.
I didn't have your number to text.
You're just on. Okay. Okay. Now we will proceed with the rest of the Ways and Means Committee meeting. At this time, we will have a presentation by Mr. Randy Shepard, Independent Auditor from Bernano and Company. Mr. Shepard.
Thank you, Mr. Shepard. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Randy Shepard. I am the audit partner from Bernano and Company, and I head our governmental practice for the firm, and I'm responsible for the audit for the county. We did complete our audit with a report date of May 27th. You did receive that back in June. And I do want to express the appreciation of Bernano for Bob Franklin, Jennifer Cesario, and Chris Kovacek and their staff for their assistance during the audit. Obviously, we can't do what we do without their assistance, and we do come in contact with many members of the staff across the county, so we appreciate that as well. We did issue an unmodified opinion on the audit of the county. That is what's called a clean opinion. It is the highest level of assurance that we can give as it relates to the audit process. And so obviously, as you're going for bonding, grants and things like that, that's what they're looking for to make sure that the numbers are fairly presented. We are currently in the process of working through the single audit, which will be completed by September 30th, which is the due date for that. And that really relates to all the federal awards that you have, that you receive with the county. In terms of what some of the required communications that we are required to present to the committee, whether there's new accounting policies or practices, and I think you did receive this in your packet. It's dated July 26th. There was one new accounting standard or auditing standard implemented in the year related to the annual comprehensive report. That really was just a name change from the previous document that was done. There was no other significant accounting matters or guidance changed during the year. There are certain estimates within your financial statements. All statements have them. There are 4 significant ones that we call out in this document, the first of which relates to other employment benefit obligations. So that's your obligation to retirees to fund healthcare after employment. So that is an actuarially based calculation, and through that we have to make sure that the assumptions and all the data is reasonable, and that is in accordance with regulations, which we do. There's also an estimate for uncollectible accounts based on tax receivables. So we look at those assumptions as well and make sure that they are reasonable, consistent with what would be expected in historical information. Depreciation expense on your fixed assets or your capital assets is a number that we look at as well, which is an estimate. And then lastly, the estimate related to net pension asset liability or obligation, which is your portion of the state retirement system obligation. In some instances, it does result in a net pension asset. And the difference between those two things is if the state pension system is in an overfunded situation, then that asset is allocated down to each participating municipality or government. And if there's a liability situation as well, and those numbers change dramatically based on actuarial assumptions or as they look at historical earnings. So we look at all those assumptions and make sure that they're reasonable in relation to the county statements. As it relates to sensitive disclosures, if there's any sensitive disclosures, we're required to disclose those. The only ones that we really raise in terms of sensitivity are the net pension and the OPEB, because those are actuarially based and because those can change dramatically. Other than that, there were nothing that we identified. We also are required to disclose whether we had any difficulties encountered in performing the audit, because again, we are hired by the legislature to perform our task. We don't work for management, we work with management. But as I said at the outset, the audit process went very well. If we have adjustments as part of the audit, we do disclose those, and those are attached to this document as well. And whether there was any disagreements with management during the audit. And what I mean by that is, let's say we proposed an adjustment and management didn't agree with what we were doing, we would disclose that to you. But if you look at this letter, we had no disagreements. Anything that was came up during the audit process was addressed, and we came to agreement. And then we're not aware of any consultations or opinion shopping through the audit process. I really haven't seen that in my 25-year career anyway, but we're required to disclose that. And then lastly, as part of the audit process, they may reach out to us and ask questions throughout the year. And what's important to note is our retention is not based on our responses to those questions. Our retention is based on a contract, et cetera. So and that's just part of the professional relationship. And with that, if there's any questions for me specifically, I'd be happy to address those, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
We will now continue with the rest of the agenda for Ways and Means Committee members. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk? Yes, Legislator Marinetti.
A motion that we consider the remaining items on the agenda through one motion, with the exception of the following: item 220226, 0227, and 0252.
Second?
Seconded by Legislator Dondorfer. I'm going to have the clerk read that motion out.
We have a motion on the floor by Legislator Marinetti, seconded by Legislator Dondorfer. It's a motion to move the agenda as a whole, except for referral number 22-0226, 22-0227, and 22-0252.
Is there any discussion on moving these items? All right. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
So our next item should be 22-0226, amend the 2022-2027 capital improvement program and the 2022 capital budget to add a project entitled Multimodal Freight Initiative Planning Project and authorize financing for the project.
Moved by Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barnhart, you have the floor.
Costs $1 million for this study.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this would be an initial phase of planning for a project of this magnitude, which is we expect would be quite substantial. That could be in the tens of millions of dollars, if not more, for a project that would integrate both rail, air, and highway infrastructure for a more efficient movement of freight goods in and out of Monroe County. There have been other studies that have been done over the last 2 decades that we've referred to that have helped inform, our concept for a project like this. But they're out of date because we know things have changed dramatically with supply chain issues that we've seen in the post-pandemic, as well as other international disruptions to the supply chain and movement of goods and pressure on marine ports, and a desire to establish inland ports to help alleviate the pressure, again, on those marine ports. We've seen other communities across the country take advantage of those and establish themselves as very viable inland ports. There is presently approximately $12.5 billion of infrastructure funding that's been slated by the federal government, primarily the United States Department of Transportation, for multimodal port facilities. And those grant programs typically require the community that's applying for them to have completed studies. They want to fund projects, they want to build projects, and it's really incumbent upon the requesting agency to develop the plan and the study. So to answer your question, we retained Bergman Associates through our term engineering contract, reviewed plans, did our own initial evaluation, and determined that the appropriate next step would be to conduct economic and marketing assessments to determine the viability of a multimodal facility in our community. And through that effort and working with Bergman Associates, we determined that the cost for such assessments that would give us a clearer path forward would be in the range of $1 million. We know if those results are favorable, we would have to continue additional studying in terms of infrastructure assessments, environmental reviews, preliminary engineering, as well as grant applications. That next level of effort would then position the county to competitively for those federal grants.
Thank you so much. Through the chair to the administration, this inland multimodal facility, would this be something owned and run by the county?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that would be something that would be evaluated, the operating costs, the ownership, and the operational elements of that would be all part of the study itself. I would venture guess that the county would not own and operate a facility like this. It would likely be an established authority that already has the jurisdiction to be able to operate a facility like that, but it would be yet to be determined.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, there are a number of studies and assessments referred to in this referral. You said they go back 20 years. I'm wondering if you can pick out a few recent ones that you think would give us a really good idea of what this project is, and forward them to the legislature.
Yep, those are being made available through
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0227, amend the 2022-2027 capital improvement program and the 2022 capital budget to advance the Tropical Exhibit and Main Entry Plaza project from 2023 to 2022 and retitle the project as Tropical Exhibit and Main Entry Plaza Phase 2. Amend the 2022 capital budget to increase the funding for the Tropical Exhibit and Main Entry Plaza Phase 2 project. Authorize financing for the project.
Moved by legislator Smith, seconded by legislator Brew. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Oh. Okay, did I miss someone? All right. Oh. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 22-0252, authorize an intermunicipal agreement with municipalities to operate temporary Department of Motor Vehicle services.
Moved by legislator Brew, seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion? Legislator Brew, you have the floor.
During our meeting last night, it was mentioned, I believe from representative of the from the county clerk's office, that there are currently 4 sites within the county, correct me if I'm wrong, that were being considered for remote DMVs. And I captured them as being Rockport, Fairport, potentially Wheatland, and potentially Ogden. Now, was this based upon, through the chair to the administration, was this based upon an inquiry that the DMV had put out asking about the process of invoking an IMA so that the hosting could start? Or were these the towns that have actually came to the county requesting remote DMV services?
Through the chair, these are all locations that have solicited interest in being host. To host mobile DMVs, some of them are pre-existing hosts, some are new. This a number of these locations have also had site reviews with representatives from the county clerk's office, the Department of Public Safety, and CSEA, as is part of our new system to make sure we can have proper sites moving forward.
Okay, thank you, and again, to the chair, to the administration. So I know this doesn't get us back to pre-COVID remote DMV location status. Is the county clerk's office under the opinion that the 4 locations that we've mentioned provide adequate service geographically to the county?
Through the chair, a review of our 4 pre-existing locations for fixed DMV services does indicate that all points, major destinations and villages in Monroe County are within 20 to 15 minutes of a DMV. There are going to be a number of services that are not easily accessible at mobile DMV sites because there is, with changes in state laws, requirements for specialized equipment for particularly some ID reviews and the real ID requirements, that we need to have our fixed mortar branches to be able to conduct some of those transactions. Mobile DMVs, I think, have been a policy in the past to try to make it a little bit more convenient for some targeted constituencies that have a harder time getting to some of the branches, to our 4 fixed branches. That is the rollout we're looking forward to trying to do, is looking at those constituencies that are having trouble having access, whether they are on the outskirts of the county or even potentially within the city of Rochester, and trying to find ways to bring these services to them.
Thank you for your response. So through the chair of the administration, just so I'm understanding that correctly there. So we're not done in our attempt to identify potential locations to bring the DMV access a little bit closer to citizens. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. Representatives from the clerk's office, including myself, were able to meet with the Association of Town Supervisors, where we've been having ongoing conversations, and we've requested solicitation if there are localities that would like to be host of these services. And those are currently the localities that we're in conversations with.
Thank you. And through the chair, a few more questions, if I may. I know in some of our previous meetings, Clerk Romeo, you had mentioned that there was a heightened concern about security at the remote DMV locations. Are the locations that we're looking at now and possibly moving forward to solidify as hosting remote DMVs, have they agreed to fund the security protection for the remote DMVs?
Through the chair, we don't have any commitments. We're still in ongoing conversations with all potential hosts. Added security costs and concerns are a very important part of this conversation. And that is another reason why, at the request of our staff and CSEA, we now are conducting site reviews with a member from the Department of Public Safety to make sure that this would be an adequate location, not only for the residents that may be coming to access services, but also for our staff.
Then another follow-up question or / comment, if I may. While I certainly understand the concern of the DMV workers about the safety and the potential for any off-the-street type of threat, I guess I see that as that would be true for any street retail business, that there is always a risk of some sort of an external threat. And I was thinking that I am not sure why the DMVs would consider themselves to be more susceptible to those type of threats than any other type of retail business. I'm just wondering if you could help me understand that a little bit, if you might.
Through the chair, I think, unlike most retail enterprises, when you go into a DMV, it's not by discretionary choice. It's an obligation. A lot of individuals have a perception of what a DMV is that is not pleasant, and they come in very tense and prepared to be confrontational simply because that is the perception that has been in the making, I think, nationally for the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's allegedly slow. You can't get what you need done right, et cetera, et cetera. The needs for security, again, through the chair, as a result of, through our reopening process after the required COVID shutdowns from the state, we did have issues with an increase in some workplace violence issues and reports being made from our staff that did lead to a doubling of our security costs for our fixed branches. A handful of incidents that we have previously discussed in other meetings. And I think there has been some unreported incidents we have learned about from our staff that is why the staff and CSCA both approached the county clerk's administration with very serious concerns when there was discussion about the potential rollout of mobile DMVs.
Okay. Thank you. To the chair, to the administration, I'm not taking this lightly, but I do understand how, a completely normal citizen could walk into the DMV and actually leave a little bit irate. And so, I get that. I get how the mood can potentially change. But as a follow-up question to security and the costs involved through the chair to the administration, so is the county clerk's office still looking for the town's remote DMVs to pay for those changes for security?
Through the chair, we would be asking the host municipalities to be providing an authorized, sorry, I want to make sure I get the language correctly, a licensed security guard or a law enforcement officer on site.
All right. So you're to the chair. So just to be clear, you're asking that the towns, they would have the responsibility of providing that security, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And in my assumption, there would be no funding, outlay from the county clerk's office to support that.
Through the chair, that is correct. That is one of the areas that we've discussed with some of our potential sites that at the time we did not seem to get any pushback from that through the chair, which is why these are all ongoing conversations. But that is a requirement in order for us to take our services and our equipment and our staff out onto those locations. This is going to be something that we need to make the partnership work.
Okay. Through the chair, I'm sorry, just one more question. I know during our meetings, I suggested, since some of the security costs can be, they can be quite high when we're talking about trained security officers. And I made a suggestion that most of the towns and many of the villages now have bailiffs that oversee their court proceedings. Would those type of people qualify as being acceptable to provide security in these remote locations?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. And through the chair, some town and village court spaces where they hold courts has been some of the spaces we've looked at, which is where that conversation had come from.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, Legislator Dondorfer.
And you'd made mention of incidents that have happened, security concerns. Do you guys have documentation of any of this? Has the sheriff's department been called in on any of this stuff, or is that something that could be made available so we could see these incidents that are the security concerns?
We can certainly make that available, yes. Well, I will say we can't. There's the incident reports, police reports to the sheriff's office, particularly involving our Henrietta DMV. I know we can make those available. As for workplace violence reports, I guess I will need to check on whether or not we can make those available. I'm not sure.
And you could, if you had to redact any information in regards to who it's involved, we're not interested in the employees itself, more the incident.
Through the chair, we can make some things available, yes.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Yep, Legislator Vasquez Simmons.
Many communities within the inner city
Through the chair, I apologize. Can you repeat the first part of that question?
Legislator, if you can lean just up
Oh,
towards
sorry
your
about that.
microphone a little bit.
So the
Yep.
question was, do we have a list of branch locations?
Our four fixed locations through the chair, they are on our website and our printed materials. Those are the fixed permanent locations that we have are Henrietta, Greece, Arundecoit, and the city of Rochester.
Are there temporary locations that we're considering?
Those are the currently 5 jurisdictions that we're currently considering through the chair. We have been the county clerk's office has also engaged in conversations with the city of Rochester, other county departments about trying to take DMV services, particularly ID services, and targeting some other at-risk and other targeted constituencies that we would like to try to help remove some barriers for getting into DMVs.
Legislator Brew.
Just one follow-up question. There are 5 locations. I mentioned 4. Could you, and I mentioned Brockport, Fairport, Wheatland, and Ogden. What was the 5th?
Through the chair, East Rochester.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. All right. Where are we here? All right. There being no, are there any matters to come before this committee this evening? All right, there being no other matters, the July 26th, 2022 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be held on Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m.